We've all heard the horror stories about bad bosses, right? But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Today, we're going to flip that script. We're not talking about what to avoid. We're talking about how you can actually sculpt the leader you want to become. Let's dive in. So let me ask you something straight up. Are you leaving your leadership growth to chance? I mean, really think about it. It's a tough question, because I think for a lot of us, if we're being honest, the answer is probably yes, even with the best of intentions. And this right here, this really captures the trap so many of us fall into. The usual way is reactive, right? We think about that terrible boss we had and say, I'll never be that. But the shift we're talking about is proactive. It's creative. It's about deciding who you're going to become. Think of it this way. Are you just bouncing off the walls of a maze? Or are you actually following a map to the exit? Okay, so let's get into section 1. We're going to start by uncovering a really common but absolutely critical leadership blind spot. Here's the thing. Just knowing you don't want to be a micromanager or a terrible communicator, that's not a plan. That's not a strategy for growth. It's just a passive stance. And when you don't have a clear, positive vision of who you do want to be, you're basically leaving your development up to chance. You're letting circumstances shape you instead of you shaping them. All right, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? How do we fix this? Well, that's exactly what Section 2 is all about. We're going to introduce a really powerful mental model that'll help you shift your focus from just avoiding the bad stuff to actively creating the good stuff. So the framework we're using for this shift is called Positive Psychology Coaching, or PPC for short. And, the key word to focus on here is mechanics. This isn't about fuzzy, abstract goals. PPC forces you to get specific, to define the actual observable behaviors of your ideal self. We're talking about getting really granular here. And this quote, man, this gets right to the heart of it. We are moving way beyond vague ideas like, I want to be a better leader. We are creating a super high-definition picture of your best self in action. How do they literally communicate? What do their relationships with their team actually look and feel like? That's the level of detail we're aiming for. Okay, let's get practical. Let's build on this idea with something you can start using like today. In this next section, we're going to design what we call an action anchor. Think of it as your personal blueprint for leadership success. This action anchor, it's the real tangible result of all this thinking. It's a clear, written down guide to your best professional leader self, or BPLS. And listen, this isn't just some fluffy mental exercise. It's a real tool. It's something you can look at every day, like a North Star for your actions and decisions. So how do you build this thing? It really comes down to 3 core steps. We're going to detail your communication style, describe your relationships, and figure out exactly how you inspire and motivate. Simple as that. Let's break them down. First up, communication. And I'm not talking about just writing down, be a good communicator. No way. We have to get specific. Does your ideal leader self schedule regular, meaningful check-ins? Do they have a real open-door policy? One where people actually feel safe walking in? How transparent are they with project updates, especially when the news isn't great? You've got to define it. Okay, step 2 is all about relationships. Your best professional leader self. They create a certain kind of environment, right? One that's built on a foundation of trust, transparency, and real mutual respect. I want you to actually take a second and just jot down what that feels like. What does that dynamic look like in practice? And last but not least, step 3. How does your ideal leader inspire and motivate people? Again, be super specific. I want you to pick just one concrete action. Just one. Maybe it's that they are constantly on the lookout for skill development opportunities for their team. Or maybe it's something as simple but powerful as consistently celebrating the small wins along the way. What's that one thing? All right, you've done the hard work. You've started to conceptualize this blueprint for yourself. Now for the fun part. In our final section, we're going to put it to the test. It's time for your first leadership challenge. Because let's be real, a blueprint is totally useless if it just sits in a drawer, right? The real power, the magic, happens when you actually apply it. So let's take this brand new best professional leader self you've just defined and drop them right into a tough but very real leadership scenario. And here is that challenge. How would your ideal leader self, the one you just designed, the one who communicates with total clarity, who builds trust, who inspires action, how would that person manage an internal conflict differently than you do today? Conflict is maybe the ultimate test of leadership. And by really thinking through this one specific challenge, you're doing more than just daydreaming about being a better leader. You're taking the very first, very real step toward actually becoming one.